it's Demi from Reading with Demi and welcome back to another video. I feel like I haven't filmed a wrap up in forever, and that's, it's a booktube like staple, and I'm terrible booktuber, I'm sorry. But here we are with my wrap up for October. This was it was an average reading month for me based off of all the books I've read up until this point, but it has gotten me out of a little bit of a slump. The past few months I've been reading like 3 books a month. This month I managed to read 5, which is very exciting. So my 5 books totaled to 1,639 pages, which again is a bit below average, but I'm coming out of a slump, so I'm happy that I read 5 books, to be honest. I will put up a graphic somewhere, the Storygraph graphs, to show you the breakdowns. So as you can see, my biggest mood this month was a mixture, equal parts tense, mysterious and dark. I was tending to read more towards spooky books this month, so that probably tracks. But there is also some adventurous, challenging and funny. In terms of pace, 80% of the books that I read are medium paced and 20% is fast paced. I don't remember which book was the fast paced book. It was probably Carrie. Actually no, it wasn't. That's Stephen King. He doesn't do fast paced. I don't know. One of them was fast paced. In terms of how long the books were, the majority of them fell into the 300 to 500 page category, with 3 of them, and then we have one that was under 300 pages and one that was over 500 pages. That one was definitely Warrior Fae, or whichever Zodiac Academy book I was reading. I can't remember which one. It was the first book I read. All the books I read in October were fiction books, but a breakdown of that shows that 3 of the books I read were considered to be horrors, and then 2 were romance / fantasy, which tracks. They were fantasy romances or romanticities. It makes sense. Out of the 5 books that I read this month, 4 of them were either hardbacks or paperbacks. They were in print form, and 1 was an ebook that I got from Kindle Unlimited. And here is a breakdown of my star ratings for the 5 books, and my average rating, you can see here, was a 4.1. So let's do a little bit of a deeper dive into the books I read this month. The first book I read was Warrior Fae by Caroline Peckham and Susan Valenti. This is the final book in the Ruthless Boys of the Zodiac series, which is a spin-off of Zodiac Academy, and it follows Elise and her 4 kings. I'm not gonna lie, I've forgotten all of their names. There was Dante, Leon, Ryder and Gabriel. There you go. Dante, Leon, Ryder, Gabriel, as they try to uncover the secrets of Elise's brother's death and who King is. It's not one of those 4 kings, and what the Black Card are doing, which is some sort of secret society / cult that's happening in their city. I can't tell you too much about it because obviously it is the last book in the series and it wraps up that whole series nicely, but I really enjoyed it. I was happy to finish the series because it closed all of those like plot lines that were weaving together. Everything got closed off, which was really nice, and I'm really looking forward to jumping back into Zodiac Academy at some point. I don't know when, and in all fairness, right now I feel like I've got to start from the beginning to remind myself of what happened, but we shall see. But yeah, I gave Warrior Fae 4 stars. The next book I read was also a 4-star read, and that was Reprieve, yeah, by James Han Matson. This is the only physical book that I took to New York. So once I'd finished Warrior Fae, I picked this one up. It was really nice. We spent a day just sitting in Central Park and reading. It was awesome. This book is about a extreme haunted house, escape room sort of thing, and it follows perspectives of people that work there, contestants that were entering this one specific game, and some other people, and we're following them because this one particular run of the escape room goes terribly wrong, and it's trying to figure out what happened, who was responsible. Yeah, when I picked this book up I thought it was going to be, a fun creepy escape room, which it is, but it's so much more than that. It tackles lots of social issues, so race, sexuality, mental health, things like that. It's a lot deeper than I thought it was going to be going into it, but I did really enjoy this, and I would love to read some more from this author. The next book I picked up in October was Dead to the World by Charlaine Harris. I don't know if you've seen any of my previous videos, but I had mentioned that I started this a few months ago, and then for some reason, almost like a soft DNF. I don't know the reason, because I read it again this month from the beginning and I still love this book. This is the 4th book in the Sookie Stackhouse novels, in which we follow our protagonist, Sookie Stackhouse, as she learns where she fits in a world of humans and vampires and werewolves and shifters and whatever she is. She's not quite sure at this point what she is, apart from telepathic. So she knows she's not quite human, but she's definitely not any of the shifters, werewolves, vampires either. And yeah, in this particular story, a coven of witches have moved into Shreveport and have hexed the sheriff. They've hexed the sheriff of Area 5, which covers that area of where they are, to the point where he doesn't know who he is, and he's ended up naked almost, running down a road on New Year's Day very early in the morning, and Sookie comes across him. Obviously she knows who he is, she's met him before, and takes him into her house and hides him there from the witches as the other vampires try and figure out what's happening and work with the werewolves and the shifters to get rid of these witches, because none of them like these witches. They're trying to like strong arm their way into their businesses and take their money. There's also a side plot in which Sookie's brother Jason goes missing, and Sookie is trying to find out where he is as well, and whether or not it's related to the witches. So yeah, this is such a good book. This is my favourite. I mean, in the show, this is my favourite season. Each season of True Blood follows a different book. This is my favourite season just because I love Eric. So would definitely recommend this series. I'm going to keep reading it, but I'm not going to lie, I don't really remember what happens after this book, so it's going to be like I'm reading them again for the first time. And I gave Dead to the World 4.5 stars, which was the highest book this month. I don't know why I didn't give it 5. Maybe I should bump it up to a 5, but I've already done the graphics. It's going to stay at 4.5, but yes, I love this book. Would 100% recommend it. I will be keeping this series forever because I will probably reread this countless times. Book number 4 was actually the book we picked at my work book club, and that is Carrie by Stephen King. We had a lot to say about this book. I gave it 3.5 stars. My love-hate relationship with Stephen King continues, in as much as I love his stories, but I really do not like his writing. This fits into that category completely. I don't know if it's because it was written in the 70s, so things that aren't overly acceptable now may have been acceptable back then. Plus he was writing it taking place in the 60s, I believe. So again, there is a bit of a difference in what was acceptable then and now in terms of language. It's also very obvious that this is written by a man in terms of not knowing a whole lot about women's bodily functions. If you know, if you've read Carrie or you've watched the film, you kind of know what I'm on about. But yeah, I'm not a fan of his writing, so I think I'll stick to watching adaptations of his books, because I don't know, yeah, I mean, most of my book club felt the same in terms of the writing, but in my mind this is not a horror book, this is a tragedy. Because I definitely feel sorry for Carrie, and in my opinion everyone got what they deserved, and that's where I'm going to leave it. And the final book that I finished this month was the Camp Crystal Lake Team Jigsaw book of book pick, and that was How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. I gave this book 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. This is the first book I've read in a while. Yeah, this is the first book I've read in a while that actually made me feel uneasy, creeped me out. Like, I wanted to read it, but at the same time I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm ready for that yet. But no, this was a really good read. I really enjoyed the I was gonna say I enjoyed the dynamic between our 2 main characters, but actually it really annoyed me. But I guess, I don't know, I enjoyed this book. The atmosphere in this book was amazing. I felt, like I said, I felt the unease that the characters felt during moments there. Puppets on the whole have always creeped me out, and this book lives up to that expectation. although I have since googled a picture of Pupkin, who I guess is the main antagonist in this book. It turns out he's not that scary. But I do, yeah, so this book follows Louise and Mark, who are estranged siblings who are having to come together after their parents die in a seemingly random car crash. They, you know, have to arrange a funeral and then arrange in selling their parents' house. Their mother was a puppeteer, I guess. She, you know, made puppets and performed puppet shows for the church. But she kind of took her love of puppets to the extreme, to the point where the house is full of them. And one specific puppet that she had from her childhood was called Pupkin, and she was obsessively attached to it, I guess. And then when Louise was born, Louise became obsessed with it too, up until the point where actually Pupkin's not just a puppet, and Pupkin can make you do things. So that happens. I'm not going to spoil it in case you want to read it, although I am aware this book came out in like January. But yeah, it was such a good book. It made me feel uneasy, and it got to the point maybe halfway, 60% in, where, you know, it looked like everything had resolved and they were going to get on with their lives, but you know, you've got almost half of the book left to read, so you know something's going to happen. I did not see that twist coming of what happened, but I really loved it, and I loved that in the end, you know, Louise and Mark really did have to work together to rid the world of Pupkin and all the other puppets. I don't think I'm ever going to look at squirrels quite the same way again, but yeah, I would definitely give this book a go if you like creepy things and you're not too creeped out by dolls and puppets. So they are the 5 books that I read, well, finished in October. I am partway through a couple of books, which hopefully I'm going to finish in November, so I will try and film another reading wrap up at the end of November, and they will be on there. I don't have a TBR for November. I realise that TBRs don't really work for me at the moment. I'm not sure. I think, well, 3 of those books appeared on my TBR, I believe. Obviously, How to Sell a Haunted House. I'm pretty sure Dead to the World was on there, and Reprieve. But like when I finished How to Sell a Haunted House, I really should have gone on to something else that was on my TBR, but I've actually picked up, I don't know where my copy is, but I've actually picked up Ring by Koji Suzuki. It's the book that the films are based off of, and I'm really enjoying that at the moment. And also it's non-fiction November, so I'm hopefully going to at least get to 1 non-fiction book this month. I think I aimed to read 6 this year, and I don't think I've read any yet, so that will be good. But yeah, so that is my reading wrap up for October. Let me know if you read any of these books. I'd love to hear what you've thought on them. Let me know if you've got any sort of recommendations on books based on what I've read this month. I am always looking to grow my TBR. Not that it needs it, it is very long. And if you haven't already, hit like and subscribe. And if you want to just let me know that you've made it to the end of the video but don't know what to comment, leave me a firework emoji. I don't know if there is one. There must be, in honour of my bullet journal theme for November. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!